Forget about the sages, forget about morality. True peace doesn't come from being good or wise, but from being simple. This is what the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu states in chapter 19 of his famous Tao Te Ching. If you're interested in what his arguments are and what all of this has to do with your life, join me in this episode and watch till the end of the video. Abandon the sages, discard the scholarship. People will benefit 100-fold. Abandon compassion, discard the righteousness. People will return to the family ties. Abandon the cleverness, discard the profit. Thieves and robbers will disappear. These three are superficial and not enough by themselves. Let the following be what to rely on. Behave simply and hold on to the nature of things. Lessen selfishness and restrain desires. Abandon all learning and your worries are over. So, welcome back everybody on my channel. Today we're going to look at chapter 19 of the Tao Te Ching of the famous Lao Tzu. So, this chapter in a whole is basically a continuing of the topic which was introduced in chapter 18, which is basically the superficial norms, the rules of society aren't the true rules and the truth which should be the foundation of human action, which is living the Tao, living the true nature of things where you don't need superficial rules. Okay, so that was basically the thesis of chapter 18, and now we continue with this chapter 19, and Lao Tzu goes deeper into what he means exactly. So abandon the sages and discard the scholarship. People will benefit 100-fold. Okay, it's a funny statement. Abandon the sages. What does he mean? He means that the sage very often is a figure who represents being good, being wise, being open, being tolerant, being, well, holy in a way. But very often, people who play the role of a sage aren't really that good and wise and so on. So you could compare this with the figures of the Pharisees in the New Testament, right? So the Pharisees back then were the church officials of the Jewish communities, and Jesus said well, you act like you're the holy ones, but actually you're not. You're not keeping to the laws of God. And and this is basically the same argument, abandon the sages, because the superficial sage is not really worth it. It's not about that people tell you, oh, you're so holy, oh, you're a sage, oh, I bow down before you. That's not the point. Abandon the sages. We don't need superficial holy people. Okay, that's what he says. And then the next one, discard the scholarship, is basically the same. We don't need, he's saying that the typical scholars who sit in the library all day and read, they seem wise. They may seem wise and they may know a lot in the sense of remembering things, in the sense of having a large memory capacity. But that's also not what it is truly about. So if people think, oh, I want to become that, I want to become a sage, I want to become a scholar, Lao Tzu is saying that's not what it's about. Okay, so he's saying, let these ideas go and you will benefit not by a small margin, but you will benefit 100-fold. Okay. So the same with abandon compassion, discard the righteousness. And that is something, yeah, he repeats what he stated already in chapter 18, like this idea of compassion, this superficial idea of always being nice to people and and being righteous so others can see that you're righteous. So the superficial, being hypocritical with this, that's not what it's about. Okay, so he's saying here, abandon compassion, discard the righteousness. So put these ideas aside as well, and people will return to the natural family ties, to the natural love from children towards their parents, and the love from parents toward their children. Okay, because that's the natural state of families, the natural state of society in a whole. So if you leave these ideas out, if you put them away, the true nature of things will reappear, which is a happy family, basically. So abandon cleverness and discard profit. Thieves and robbers will disappear. This is something he mentioned earlier, I think in chapter 2 or 3. Like when you don't think so much about being rich, or if you don't if you don't hold it so important to be rich and famous and stuff like that, then there will be no thieves and robbers, because that's not what's important. Okay, so no one will want to have that, because that's not the thing. So abandon cleverness. So tame your mind in a way. So don't overestimate your brain capacity, and don't think that that's what it's all about. And it's also not about profit. And then you won't have problems with thieves and robbers. Okay. So now 2 lines are coming, which are kind of external. These 3 are superficial and not enough by themselves. So Lao Tzu is stating what I said before, these 3 points do that, but that won't do the job. Okay, that won't do the job of returning to the Tao, because returning the Tao is the overall topic of the whole Tao Te Ching. Okay, so these 3, they're fine, but superficial, not enough. Let the following be what to rely on. So he's saying what comes now, that's the important part. Okay, remember this part. So what are the 3 points that are following? Actually, there are more, but behave simply and hold on to the nature of things. Very important. Okay, behave simply. What does he mean? He means be who you are. Don't act. Don't run after ideas of being something else, but be who you are. Be in the moment. Be in this Wu Wei state. We heard so much about Wu Wei. Go with the flow. Follow the natural flow of things. So don't pretend to be anyone else. Be yourself. That's the first point. Hold on to the nature of things. So don't make things more complicated as they are. Okay, if there's a problem, fix it. But don't make more of it. Don't make drama. Don't act upon it. Okay? Because so here I am again. My memory was full. Well, but now it should work. So a friend of mine had this very nice idea that if you have a problem and you don't want it, you have to. Isn't that a great thought? So that's what Lao Tzu is basically saying too. So stay with the nature of things and don't make more out of it, because you will have more problems. Okay, so behave simply and hold on to the nature of things. Lessen selfishness and restrain desires. Okay, so this is a very typical Taoist thing to say. So lessen selfishness. Okay, don't think so much about what you need, but think about what others need. Because by putting yourself in their service, you are enhancing your own karma, and by that, your own happiness. Okay, so that's the idea here. And restrain desires, because desires, of course, basic desires, natural desires are fine. But if you have desires which take over the system, like desires for alcohol, desires for other drugs, desires for sex, if they have too much power, if they gain too much power over you, you are addicted. And that's of course not what this is about, what enlightenment is about, what finding the Tao is about, of course. So lessen selfishness, restrain desires, become the master of your own system, and put yourself in the service of others. Okay, so that's the second point. And then the last one, abandon all learning and your worries are over. Isn't that nice? And of course, he does not mean everybody should become stupid. Okay. Abandon all learning. Okay, the Chinese term 学 means learning. It's also the word for school or university. So learning is putting things on top. Learning is using your mind and fill it up with stuff. And in Taoistic thought, healing and becoming a disciple and an avatar of the true Tao means don't use this too much, but be. Okay, and very often what you have up here, all those ideas stand in the way of you really being your natural self. So it does not mean become stupid. Of course, you are allowed to know things, but it means to, as well, don't put so much importance up here. Okay? Don't think that you are your thoughts. Don't identify yourself with all the stuff you've learned, because all of this, yeah, it's good to have, but it's not that what life is about. Okay? So abandon all learning. And actually, there is even the Taoist saying that you have to unlearn. You have to unlearn to learn. Okay, so to kind of, yeah, to stop thinking, stop learning in the superficial way and start to experience. That is the difference. Like there's a difference between learning with your mind, learning with your brain, and experiencing the world. And with learning, you always strengthen this castle up here, which divides you from your true nature. So you want to live the life, experience life, and by that you really know. And real knowledge is different from reading books. It's very different. Right? When you read something and you might think, oh yeah, that's true. But if you experience something, after that you know. And that knowledge is quite different from just knowing anything by heart. Right? So that is what is meant here. So what does it mean for us? It means, well, don't give so much about superficial ideas. Don't give so much about what others think of you. Don't give so much about, superficial morality, like the morality you want others to see. Okay, that's not what it's about. Concentrate, if you want to be happy, if you want to reach the Tao, following Lao Tzu, behave simply, okay? Be as you are. Hold on to the nature of things. That means looking at life the way it is. Deal with the problems there are, and don't make more out of it. Lessen selfishness, restrain desires. So keep an eye on your ego. Okay, keep an eye on your ego. How much you put into like patting your own back, and how much do you actually do for others, because that is what makes you really happy. And the third point, abandon learning. Don't give so much about brain capacity. Start to experience your life. Be at the moment. Be there when things happening. Be with the ones you love. Experience the life. Okay? And then, as Lao Tzu is stating, your worries will be over. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, as always, talking about Lao Tzu, and I will come back, of course, with chapter 20, and I hope you join me again when we do it. So, have a nice week. Bye-bye.